I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
Where's Booby? That's Booby.
And Chip and Vita.
Behemoth, ladies and gentlemen. By the time you watch this, we'll be packing up on the way to Boston to go see Behemoth. Live and in...
I again feel that nervousness of a concert.
This one might be warranted, though.
Yeah, and this one's going to be different, too, because I won't be able to be with you the whole time. I'm going to have to go in some doors and go in somewhere else.
Well, yeah, well...
Not well, it's true. Those other people went in a different door. You'll be at a different spot.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Do you want to eat at that restaurant again?
No. Not after what happened.
Wow, that's deep. Okay. I do, but okay. This is Messe Noire. Messe, that's a Latin word, and I'm pretty sure it means mass. I was watching the State of the Contest debating a post-Vatican II Catholic, and they were talking about the Messe order, the Novus Order Messe.
Back it up. I was thinking about our waiter when we went there and hoping that my Yelp review went through. But go ahead, say that again.
The term Messe.
Yeah.
Probably means mass. It probably means black mass, because noir means black. And so I was listening to the State of the Contest debating a post-Vatican II Catholic, and they were debating the Novus Order Messe, which is the new order mass after Vatican II and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, this means black mass. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So, should be. This is kind of like, I guarantee you, this is going to basically be like Batushka, only bad.
Oh.
You know how a Batushka follows the liturgy?
Yeah.
And like they quote word for word? This is going to be like that, only for the devil.
Well.
Guaranteed.
Ready?
Go!
Go.
Illustrated of the kings of man. I use words
he sings.
Senor Darsky.
It's that desperate.
He's got my favorite death vocals.
Oh man, yeah.
He's blasphemous as hell. Literally.
Yeah, he is.
Literally blasphemous as hell. But he
his
go ahead.
ginormous crash from our children downstairs. This band's, I don't know who's in charge, maybe it's him, maybe it's not. This band's attention to detail and excellence is so commendable. Like start to finish, it just has a really excellent sound to it.
Yeah.
It has excellence in I feel like he always, goes on 10 with his vocals, and I think even though I don't agree with what he's singing about, like he went on 10 with it. You know what I mean? Like from what I was getting out of it, he flipped it like what you were saying. And he really went pretty far with some of the stuff.
Well, this is the Apostles' Creed.
Yeah.
Backwards or inverted or however you want to call it. And it's almost like, I wonder how many Behemoth fans actually catch what he's actually doing.
Yeah.
Because, like, I could see a person not familiar with the Apostles' Creed.
Yeah.
Going, yeah, I believe in Satan too. Mm-hmm. Like, it starts off with, I believe in God the Father, maker of heaven and earth, and in his Son, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. I can see where...
that's why I pulled up the Apostles' Creed. I said, wait a second. Conceived of the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, da-da-da-da. So it's like...
Yeah, it was...
He starts off...
He definitely followed that pattern.
I believe in God the Father. I believe in Satan, maker of heaven and earth, who rends both heavens and the earth. And in his Son, Jesus Christ, and in the Antichrist, and in his Son, is dearly misbegotten. You know what I mean? Born of a harlot nun, right? And born of the Virgin Mary. Yeah. He's pretty, that first stanza is the opening lines of the Apostles' Creed, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how much Behemoth fans actually, I mean, no disrespect. I mean, obviously.
Well, I think he said something one time. Didn't he say something?
Well, he said in the Instagram post about our video. About our video where he was like, these guys seem to have done more work to try to understand what I was saying than our fans. Yeah. And he, it's funny, like, sometimes the Behemoth fans goes, you guys are idiots, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, alright. Okay.
No. A man said otherwise.
I use words sharp as a sword, which is interesting because the scripture, the word is called a sword, right?
It says from his mouth comes a double-edged sword.
Yeah. I use words sharp as a sword to rake saints' shins bestrewn. 3 days risen, the grand deceiver. I bless the world with ire and woe. So he's... Go ahead.
Rake their shins?
Yeah.
I ruptured my Achilles playing basketball with this guy and some idiot who jumped on my heel when I went to jump. But that's exactly what I thought of when it was there. I was like,
yeah. It's torture. They used to do that in the Inquisition.
They did what?
Take the sword, rake your shins, torture you. Yeah.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah. Pretty evil shit.
I don't like torture. I mean, I'm sure that lots of people don't like torture, but like it's very, very disturbing to me.
Yeah. You can't get more evil than that. But
to just drag it out like
Catholic Church, they during the Dark Ages and during the Inquisition came up with the most exquisite tortures.
Oh no.
So it's like, I don't
understand how you can have like a relationship with God and come up with tortures. Like, I don't understand how you...
Yeah, I don't think you can either. I think those are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So, but, it's one of those things that's really interesting. It's where, like, you're offended by, I'm saying the proverbial Christian you. You're offended by the shit that he's saying, and so am I. But at the same time, it's like, you're talking about torturing. We've tortured people. You know, like we put people through extreme forms of pain and suffering in the name of our religion. Now, I know for a fact that Jesus didn't co-sign any of that or anything like that. But like, how? But then now somebody comes out and says something. You know, now bless God, we've got free speech in the Western world, so now people are speaking out against, again, a version of God or Christianity that is satanic. Well, the thing is that's satanic to do that to somebody. And now people are like really offended and upset. I was talking to one of my friends. She's in a band, pretty big band, and they're a pretty dark band. And I guess these individuals were living under a rock and didn't know that she was in this big band. And so, like, they're no longer friends now because, you know, she's in this satanic band or whatever.
Oh no!
It's like, are you serious? Like, are you out of your freaking mind? Okay. but like, I don't know.
Well, if you like, let's say somebody thinks that it's so bad that you shouldn't even be friends with somebody that's like that. Wouldn't you think that it would be the opposite? Like, if you thought it was so bad, wouldn't you want to continue being their friend so you could help get them out of it if it's so terrible?
Right.
Like, what kind of friend is that?
Yeah.
To be like, oh, well, you're in a bad place. Fuck, I'm out of here.
Right. I'm out of here. Okay.
Wow, that's really terrible. That's hurtful.
So can you, Horde, host like Zion's coin, belie progeny of your pain, Yahweh, thou say it. I think Zion's coin might be Jesus. But let me read the rest of the stanza.
Okay.
Belie progeny of your pain, Yahweh, thou sayest unto me, thou disruptor, imbalance my creations. Hence I transfix in bliss of flagellation. I burned in rapture, wafted ash about, became the law above all laws, and a symmetry above the horns. It seems like that's the devil talking. I'm pretty sure.
Are you talking about the crucifixion?
No. No. Because it says.
What's flagellation?
Flagellation is when
you whip themselves.
Yeah, you do things to hurt yourself. So Yahweh says to him, thou disruptor, imbalance my creations. It's like, go in there and mess with them. Hence I transfix in bliss of flagellation. I burnt in rapture, wafted ash about, became the law above all laws, and asymmetry of the horn. So that seems to be the devil. I think there's like sometimes the Satan character or the devil in the Bible or in Jewish literature, especially in the intertestamental literature, wasn't like a completely purely independent principle of evil. He's sort of like the devil's advocate, literally, in the sense that that's his job. He's supposed to go and disrupt and cause people so that people could have an opportunity to choose him or God. So he's not like an intrinsically evil character. He's just a character who is there to present you with an alternative so that you could, you know, it can be determined whether or not God really is your, you know, whatever. So it seems like he's personifying that part of it, where he was sent to disrupt everything because everything was so peaceful. He says, would you belie progeny of your pain? You know, your progeny would be your kids. And basically, I think what he's saying is, you're you know, as Satan, he's going up to God and basically saying, you're just gonna create a completely pure, clean, pristine environment and not have them go through any pain. Yeah. And then God responds and says, okay, go and disrupt everything. Which is kind of like the template that you see in Job. Although in Job, God is the one that initiates that entire discussion. God says, have you seen my servant Job? Yada, 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 yada. I cut loose the cord of life, depart celestial source, rub mold in holy places, let wormwoods... Pages. Let wormwoods eat the cross. I prayed I'd die in you, O Lord. I pray you die in me. So that's a person's like deconversion. You know, like that would severing the relationship. You know, and departing the celestial source. I think what he's talking about here is his name is Adam. I'm speculating here, but his name is Adam. It seems he's got a Christian name or a Bible-based name. and he comes from a country that's heavily influenced by Christianity. So at one point, he probably considered himself to be a Christian. And this seems to be a song about his deconversion.
Yikes. When he says, I prayed I'd die in you, O Lord, I pray you die in me.
Right.
So he used to pray that he would die in the Lord, and now I pray you die in me. And now he's saying that.
He doesn't say and now.
Well, no, it's different. I prayed, and now it's I pray. So it sounds like like he used to pray. That, you know, like, I don't know, I'm speculating according to what you're saying. If you're saying that at one point, you know, maybe he considered it. You know how people say, like, I die in Christ, like, in Christ I die, or something like that. Maybe he's saying, I used to be like that, but now I pray you die in me, that the belief of you or the existence of you or this whatever dies in me. Like, that because of what I'm doing, boom.
Well, yeah, John 17.
Is that what you were getting?
No, I think we're pretty close. John 17, where he says, I and them and you and me, where Jesus is praying and he's talking about how close God is to his people, and they're in each other. I and you and me, and I and them, and then we'll be one together.
Yeah.
And so he's saying he wants a complete dissolution of that relationship. I cut loose the cord of life. That seems to be, maybe his mother was is
the Christian influence or the religious influence?
Yeah. Because that's what happened with me. My mom was my Christian influence, and so, like, because I had issues with my mom, I had issues with God, so, you know, I cut the cord on both of them. Depart celestial source, rub mold in holy pages, let wormwoods eat the cross. I pray I die in you, O Lord, I pray you die in me. That's a crazy line.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
It's a crazy line. Which, of course, is interesting. It's provocative, though, because if God just didn't exist, you know, then you wouldn't have to go through all this trouble.
Yeah.
Now, I know a person's going to say, well, if you've been preconditioned to believe all your life, then you wouldn't have to go through a lot of trouble. I get it. I understand. I just... The way, you know, we talked about this in the Patreon discussion forum, where I just said the way people talk about God, it doesn't seem, it seems like a resentful type of thing. It doesn't seem to be a I truly doubt you exist, or you're as silly to me as a tooth fairy or unicorns, which is what people always say. It just doesn't seem that way to me. And I understand the counter-argument. Counter-argument is, well, nobody's used unicorns to oppress me, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. But
I think a lot of times if people just look back to when it started, like, a lot of people have some story. Like, something that they were praying for and God didn't answer it, or some, like, feelings of, like, something that made them feel like that God didn't love them. Or, you know, and a lot of times that comes because some prayer didn't get answered, so they felt like, if God really loved me, like, he wouldn't just have left me out like this when there's something that was so important to me, so I must not be loved by God. Or it can be because I was actually, like, reading about, I don't know what they called it, it was, like, actually, like, some form of trauma that people will have that have been around, like, religious people, when they'll say, like, you know, cast all your cares on God, and, like, basically, like, he's gonna care for you and he's gonna take care of it, and don't worry about it, like, God's gonna heal you of this or that thing. And then, like, the person finds that they're not, like, fixed, and because they're not fixed, then they feel like, whoa, like, I'm the worst of all worst because God says he was gonna do this and then it didn't happen. And then it can kind of make people go into, like, this phase of, like, lying, where they have to pretend like they're fixed even though they're not. And then eventually, sometimes, you know, like, lots of times people will come around and they'll, like, get out of that environment and be like, well, fuck this, and, you know, to God, and blah, blah, blah. And then they're angry and they're hurt and they don't like religious people and they don't like, you know, anything that reminds them of that whole scene and everything that it did to them and said about them by God, in a sense. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. Good Lord. Well said. Who shall crucify the last prophets and have them wilt on splintered stems? Who shall churn hells across the earth and reascend to seat himself at the left hand of Satan, beguiler of the living, I think that's what it is, and of the dead. That's interesting because it's in the Apostles' Creed, it's to judge the living and the dead. he ascended to heaven to judge the living. He ascended to heaven where he'll judge the living and the dead, something like that. As it was in the beginning, now ever shall be, world without end.
Didn't the song, like the last song that we did, said "world without end"?
Yeah.
Kind of a popular phrase, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean,
world without end.
It's a beautiful phrase.
Yeah.
And it seems that the Satanists have a hard time. I guess the name of this record is The Satanist. Look at that, right there.
Oh.
So, yeah, I this is another. This is a Nicene Creed now. There it is right there. He rose according to the Scriptures, ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He shall come again with glory to judge the living and the dead. His kingdom shall have no end. And then you have it right there. He says to reascend to seat himself at the left hand of God.
Yeah.
So ascended, right hand of God, left hand of God, beguiler of the living and the dead, to judge the living and the dead as it was in the beginning. So that's interesting. Like this is the first stanza is the Apostles' Creed, and then the last stanza is the end of the Nicene Creed. Very interesting. But you have to be so literate, not only in the Bible but in biblical history, to know what he's talking about, and to know how intelligent he is.
Yeah, I wonder if he does all his. I bet he does all his own research.
He does a ton of reading. He reads a ton of Bible, which. That's the problem, though. Like, if you're I think I saw an interview one time where he said he read the Bible. Like, I'd like to ask him this question. Like, if you read the Bible a lot, to me, it's very difficult to read the Bible a lot straight through. Like, you can't proof text and do what he's doing. So, proof texting is where somebody makes a mistake on a fireside and says something like, something crazy about something silly that's completely pulled out of context, and you can easily undo it because you can tell the person picked something up from some website and hasn't read it himself at all. That's what they call proof texting, where you take a text out of context to prove something, and but that's not what's going on here.
Oh no.
But here's what happens in my mind when I think about Nergal. I'm like, okay, so he's reading this stuff straight through. To me, the God of the Bible and Jesus are so compelling as figures in their personalities. And it makes me wonder, like, can you really, it's like the alcoholic who keeps driving by the bar on accident and says, well, I gotta get home.
That's an interesting analogy to put with
Or
this.
like the pervert who says, well, I have to research this porn, so.
Right.
It's like, I don't know, man. Like, are you reading this? Are you reading this stuff straight through, and like you meet the God of the Bible, like in full relief, because you're reading it straight through, and you're seeing how he actually. And then he comes out with a record. I loved you at your darkest. Like to me, I would struggle with it's like when I was listening to the. Well, I didn't struggle with it when I was listening to the Sirah, the biography of Muhammad. I fell in love with Muhammad. I loved it.
Yes.
Disagreed with him.
Yep.
But as a person, I love him now. And if somebody would have dishonored Muhammad, everybody knows how I get when somebody says something about Islam. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't meet the God of the Bible and just be like, because he's such a complex, dynamic figure that it's just very, very interesting to me. Like, you would have to pray to dissolve ties with him if you wanted to remind yourself that you're a Satanist.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's challenging. I got another friend that we're going through Genesis. He called me up on the fireside one time. We were going back and forth, and I challenged him to read Genesis. So he actually finished it. So we're gonna end up talking. But anyway, Messe Noire, inversion of two major creeds with some Inquisition torture stuff for good measure. What do you give this song?
I feel like I always give his really high scores. I think it's a 10. I thought it was really. I think they accomplished what they wanted to by digging into it like that. I obviously don't agree with what was being said.
Blasphemous as hell, Nergal.
But
literal.
But like I said, like I always feel like everything that they're putting out, it's always like on 10. Like the instruments, I just feel like that no improvements could be made. I'm not like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. Like I never feel like it's a bad idea.
Right.
And I don't know if it's like, I kind of feel like when I was like younger, like one of my cousins, I thought he was really cool, and so he couldn't do anything that was dumb. So I don't know if it's like one of those where I'm like, I really like this Nergal character, so maybe I'm misjudging it. Like maybe it's not that great, and I just think that it is because I'm fascinated by him as a person, especially as you like the different things that you'll say and point out in the songs. I'm like, oh, that is really interesting. Man, I would love to have a conversation with this guy, or sit there and watch you have a conversation.
Yeah, and the guys, the musicianship in the song was very, very interesting too, especially at the end, you know, because they had the solo and all that stuff that they packed. They packed the last, I don't know, 45 seconds to a minute with just the musicianship and going off on it and things like that. Like he said what he had to say, packed the musicianship. It's a 8.9 for me. Good song. Probably could have went on a little bit longer, but you know, that is what that is. Been out.
Sorry, out.
Gone.